Hey everybody, it's Jamie Raskin, your ranking Democrat on the U.S. House Judiciary Committee. You know, the silver lining of this otherwise dark and gloomy Trump-Musk period is that we get to review for America and teach young people, perhaps for the first time, the basic elements of American constitutional law and our constitutional culture. And so everybody's going to get a refresher on the First Amendment, freedom of speech and free exercise of religion. People are going to learn about the right to counsel. People are going to learn about what due process means. And I always like to think of due process as the two most beautiful words in the language, because it means that significant things to you, like your life, your liberty, your property, cannot be taken away from you without due process of law. And so what are the core elements of what we call procedural due process? Well, you have a right to know of the charges against you, the right of notice. You have the right to hear those charges, and you have a right to respond to those charges in a public context and before an impartial fact finder. And you have to have the opportunity to make your case and to cross-examine witnesses on the other side. Now, why is this so important? It sounds simple and it sounds second nature, but without it, the tyrants and the dictators run amok. If you go to any historical episode of authoritarianism or fascism or Nazism, the first thing that they do is they destroy the rule of law. They obliterate due process. So people are just swept up in the middle of the night and taken, and they can be thrown in jail, or they could be thrown out of a helicopter, or put to death in some other way. And due process interposes the idea of the law between the people and the state to guarantee everybody's freedom. So there was a case that has gotten everybody focused on due process, and it involves a Marylander who was swept up in the airlift out of America to the dictator of El Salvador, a bunch of people who were described as Venezuelan gangbangers, Tren de Aragua members. Well, several of the people who were swept up in this dragnet were not. And one of them is a Marylander who has legal status in the country because he has an order not to be removed. So he's been in the country for a long time. He married a U.S. citizen. He's got U.S. citizen children, although he's not a citizen himself now. He has this order preventing his removal from the country. And yet he was removed, and he was sent on an airplane to El Salvador because the dictator of El Salvador is one of Donald Trump's favorites. He loves the autocrats and the strongmen and the tyrants and the thugs. And so he was sent there unlawfully and being described as a Venezuelan gangbanger, which he was not. And so he was misidentified. Now, why do I say that so authoritatively? Because the Trump administration itself admitted it and said it was, quote, an administrative error for him to be taken that way. So it sounds like it might have a fairy tale ending, except for this. The Trump administration said there's nothing they can do about it. He's stuck in that torturer's prison in El Salvador now with people who are perhaps real Venezuelan gangbangers or not. In any event, he's not. He has no criminal record, and there are no criminal charges against him. He's just been taken to El Salvador and dropped off there, which also raises international legal problems. But leaving all that aside, it's a blatant violation of due process in America. And if these people are to be removed, they've got to be removed under the authority of the Immigration and Naturalization Act, which has due process removal proceedings and due process rules spelled out in there. None of those people got it. They've all been swept up. And so some of my friends across the aisle have been speaking definitively, authoritatively, as if these people, all of them are illegal immigrants. We know some of them are not undocumented immigrants. All of them are gangbangers. We already know some of them were not, and all of them should have been removed. It just makes no sense at all. That's why we have due process of law in America, and we've built due process into our immigration system, and we need to stick to it. So let's hang tough and stand strong for the Constitution, the whole Constitution, including the due process of laws, which protects all of us against arbitrary and unjust and tyrannical governmental action. Hang tough, everybody, and stay close.